Ugh. There we go. Let me reposition. Hello.
Congratulations, Wooly. You did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're the Elden Lord.
I have introduced Lutherians to the world. Yeah, that
No,
happened.
you don't need to do that.
That happened. Whole lot quicker than I guess was the initial. Well, called out from again that August
Yeah,
date.
no, so I didn't know you were in for Missoula when I was saying that. So as soon as I tuned into your stream, like the next day, I'm like, what are you doing? Oh no, oh no! Oh, I'm super wrong. Oh shit.
I enjoyed the part where, upon completion, it's like cool. All the questions are answered. There is nothing left to no stones left unturned. We walked into the boss room and Marika sat down and had a conversation with us for 10 minutes explaining all of it. And now we're caught up. And it's like,
I
oh my.
mean,
I never expected that. Why would you
I'm
after all this time? That'd be ridiculous, even if Grimm's involved. But I knowing that, I was hoping that what little breadcrumbs were left would still give just enough to answer the biggest glaring questions. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a FromSoft game. It's quite unlikely that the boss is even going to speak to you, which it doesn't talk to you at all. That being said, I feel like this time around I wasn't left with any like vicious unknowns by the time credits wrapped. At the end of Bloodborne, I beat the Bloodborne and got to the end of Bloodborne and watched the final ending of Bloodborne and had a moment of like, what the fuck just happened?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What was the whole game? You get to the end of Dark Souls 1 and most people burst into flame and go, "What? Why?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
If
Why? What?
like but and the thing is too is like if you are like Elden Ring in this case, I'm scraping through the game for every bit of
Yeah.
context and you still have massive gaping holes. Imagine just running through the mainline bosses
Oh my god,
and
dude.
then you
So
hit, so obviously we're going to discuss the end of Elden Ring at this point because I beat it.
you
Yeah,
beat it.
but just how what little you might understand from the moment some lady gives you a horse and then you walk forward a bit, fight some people, and then she's on fire.
Okay, so
Like
let's break it down. What's the speediest way
crit
to
path,
get to crit path it? It's
all rune souls,
start.
right?
No, you only need two. So it's straight to Godric, straight through, right? Don't do anything other than go to Stormvale and do Godric.
Mm-hmm.
Straight to the Academy, do Renala,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately take the shortcut path into Altus, run to the front of the goddamn capital, do the capital, Morgott, then north through the giants straight to the
The kiln.
giant,
The giant, yes, the kiln.
then Azula, then
Five,
Malekith, then the final.
6, 7. Yeah.
And like you get, who are these
Yeah,
guys?
nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Um no, even if and the thing is just even if you did it in a more like normal way, which is not explorative but just following the grace lines,
Yeah.
you would still have so fucking little to go on. So, afterwards we sat and watched a couple of Vati videos to get
Yeah.
up to speed, and that helped contextualize a couple of things, of course, but not the big ones. It's not the
Yeah,
big ones.
I feel kind of bad for Vati because in the past his YouTube channel was, I'm gonna say, bordering on mandatory to like I still remember back in the day when Dark Souls 1 came out, you either went to Marcus's channel, Epic Name Bro, or you went to Vati's channel
Mm-hmm.
because they were like, what was the story of the game I just played? Right? And Sekiro obviously didn't need that. Sekiro has a fucking A to B to D story.
And lots of discussion of it. Yeah.
And Elden Ring is like yeah, there's some big questions. What's up with the 4 or 5 outer gods that you don't deal with at all?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like the general, like, this is the grim part of it, is like there's an understandable sequence of events that led to how most of the people got where they were.
Yes, there is an understandable sequence of events. There is a timeline with bullet points on it, and like there's a one sentence for each bullet point describing the events of what each character was doing. But like when you have to try and line up major motivations in some cases, you're left high and fucking dry. And I mean, I guess that's the way they want it for now, at least until the DLC comes out. Um, the big one for me is like the exact nature of the Radagon Marika duality is
That
so
so
important and so unaddressed.
So it's funny because you mentioned big questions. Personally, I did not find that to be a big. So my big questions are all setting and event related. They're not
Mm-hmm.
thematic or character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Radigan, like, there's lines of dialogue that implies that they were like separate entities,
That's
but there
exactly
are
what I'm
also
talking about. But
there are
that no,
also lines of dialogue that reference them as being alternates of the same person.
yes, that no. I'm referring to exactly that. The parts where their motivations are not the same, where they don't know the same things, where she says you are yet to become me, but also you are going to get married to yourself and you're also
Yeah.
going to create offspring with yourself. Like
Super incest babies.
you know, it's
More
like
incestuous than your average incest baby.
and were those incest demigods the product of outer god tampering, or was that just
Yes.
what happens when you fuck with yourself,
No,
you know?
the answer to that question is absolutely. Both of their kids are super cursed by external forces.
Of course, but I what I mean to say is it also when you make fuck with yourself, this is what
Yeah.
happens as well, even if you are a god, you know, which
Yeah.
we are also aware of. It's like, you're not a born deity. You are a
No, you were
Newman
made a
that
deity.
was chosen by the greater will, and perhaps even before that, there was a connecting force of the one great. So, you know, it's not at all this like in the beginning there was um all the gods and then like she was one of them. It's like in the beginning there was the one great, and then
Well, in
at some
the
point there was other ones, and then at some point they picked who they wanted to make like rulers, you know.
Yeah, so in the character, there's actually in the character creator, if you go to the Newman race,
Mhm.
you it's like people from outside the lands between, which has a very like Dark Souls 1 like Lordran thing going on of like, yeah, this part of the world is all magicked out to hell and it has a different set of physics and life and death function differently, yada
Mhm.
yada. But I feel like the implication is that in the wider world, like almost none of these metaphysical god shit are applying in the same way,
So
because the Golden Order seems to be like
it's
stuck
contained.
in
It
this
is
one spot.
contained. But I will say there's a difference in how each of these games treats and or gives you a feeling about the outside world. In Souls, in Dark Souls, you feel as if the outside world is normal and this place is cursed and fucked and only crazy people go there because that's where zombies are, you know? Um I feel like um in Elden Ring, you're hearing about like okay we like whatever occasionally we talk about outside the lands between, but then it gives you like one blurb about the land of reeds and it's like, oh, the land of reeds is fucked, Japan in
Yeah.
Elden Ring is super not okay either. So you're like, huh, okay, I'm not going to assume that we are in one cursed place and everywhere else is doing fine, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's
Demons as
it's an int-
well, you have all these different
mhm.
realms and they're all having their problems too. So yeah, you get a picture of like, it's not just here.
Yeah, because to elaborate slightly on what you said about Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls as well is very much like most of the world is doing fine, right? With Dark
There's
Souls
this
1, it's like
area.
there are undead, but it's manageable enough that we can just send them to a building, right?
Mm,
And then this particular area is fucked. In Dark Souls 2, it feels like it's turning, like there's undead all over and society may have started to collapse. And then on Dark Souls 3, they literally state outright that when you look out from Lothric Castle, what you're looking at is what is left of the entire planet,
mm. It's not
like
okay anymore.
scraped into one spot. And then you get to the end of the DLC, and it's like, well, the world is dirt now.
Hmm.
And Elden Ring, it's like, yeah, no, there's weird like we're going to a different location in the DLC, and we'll talk about that later. And I feel like that own location will have its own weird shit going on that isn't necessarily associated with the tree, for example. And
Maybe.
in Elden Ring, you even have the pre-society, which was the Crucible.
Yes, the Great Tree and such, which again, there's that, and that was a whole thing again. That I'm looking. That's the Vati theory there. That is like, okay, yes, I could, based on the Crucible Knights, based on the things that came before, and based on the fact that there's a whole lot of bullshitting secrecy of like, don't look at this magic marriage greatsword. I'm going to turn it into a golden lineage greatsword. Don't worry about what it was before. We don't talk about the old shit. Stop it. That whole vibe seems to
Yeah.
lend credence to that theory. Also, shout outs and thanks to him as well for giving the okay for me to upload us watching his videos for
Oh,
the
that's great.
last bit, just
I'm
in case that's a thing.
It's one of those things you probably didn't need to do that, but it's still nice that you reached out to
Just
do
want to
so
make
anyway.
sure. And he said no problem. So, yes.
But yeah,
Um,
now we're in the era of, hey, Zuli and Illusory Wall. You are the people we desperately need because there's a lot more you can get out of Godwin by removing the visual effect on his fucking model than you can from his item description.
yo, that motherfucker had a limiter on his back, not to fuse with for power, but to get rid of it to return to his grappler form.
Yeah, it's a really because yeah, Godric. Oh, I was referring to wait, I meant Godwin. Whatever. All these fucking God, whatever. But yeah, Godfrey with the lion. In
Yes.
all the fancy art, the lion is like perched and like I'm a fucking cool Stan lion. And then when you meet him, the lion is like actively biting him and holding his
Holding
arms.
it, yes. And it's like, dress up, be a salaryman, act like a king, stop it. And he's, ooh, but Hulkamania's going wild inside.
We've got a
Horrormania, you
We've got
know.
a great detail from somebody in the chat that the Erd tree is kind of fake, in that there's a diagonal cut between the glowing, like ethereal part of the tree and what is clearly a real tree. It's called a scion cut and is a
Interesting.
form of grafting.
Interesting. So grafting even has a way of working its way into that.
Because like the pre society also had the primordial tree, and then the
Yeah,
Erd,
the great tree. Mm-hmm.
then they show up and they're like, okay, fine, tree, we'll
Mm-hmm.
just take it.
Um,
How do you feel
the
about getting to the end of Elden Ring and being hit with just straight up, no joke, no question, no ifs, ands, or buts? That's a alien.
So, well, okay, before that, I need to continue shouting out Gearless Joe,
Yeah.
who's like, fuck this stupid axe, fuck this tie. You know what I mean? Fuck your goddamn, I'm taking the glasses off. This job sucks. I hate it. I don't want to be king no more. I'm gonna kill everybody, and I'm gonna get you, and I'm gonna kill my buddy because your fight is worth it. That was
So
fantastic, and yeah, take the grab was one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten
yeah.
all LP.
Did you catch? And it's a minor detail in the cutscene that I didn't catch on my
The
first run
grace.
because I wasn't paying that. Yeah, it's the Graces point at each other,
You're the last one left.
and he's the last one. Like the Greater Will is acknowledging, no, it's down to you guys.
Dude, like, that motherfucker was seconds away from just putting his hand out to his ear,
Yeah,
waiting for the crowd to pop off. You know what I mean? Like, it was, yeah, it was awesome, and and calling in Nefeli there as well is really cool. Even if she doesn't get any extra dialogue, I'm happy she
yeah.
got one last piece because I like her a lot, and I was kind of just like, oh, I guess her quest just ends at Stormvale and there's nothing else to do.
Well, it used to just end at nothing. It was
Right.
very unsatisfying.
Even before that, yeah. So here, it's not a whole lot more satisfying, but it is nice that she can come in and, face her lineage in that moment. So that's great. Um, and then, yeah, after Huara Mania, you go inside. You get a really fucking clean cutscene. You get the theme, right?
Yeah, so we talked about this a while ago. I'm not really sure if you
I
remember,
do.
but we were doing an email. It's like, what about when the main theme kicks in? And I'm like, oh, I got one, but I'm not gonna say it.
Yep,
And it's
yep.
like, man, that the arm over the head when it hits the max crescendo at the highest point of the song.
And I don't know if the timing was just lucky, but each time I went to phase 2, the fight was right at the point where it was doing the build up, and then like on the kill to the next cutscene, it starts with duh. So I'm just kind of like, is there a thing that's musically triggered
I mean,
to
maybe.
to play right before it dies? That's the build up point because it brings phase 2 right into the quiet part, and then a fucking alien dragon with a finger for a head, where I'm looking at it like, yeah, that's the thing they've been talking about. To be fair, that is what has been described, and it is as unfathomable in its like weird shape and context as they've been hinting at. It looks like a
It,
bunch of weird goop would come out of that
it's
and become other stuff.
it's fascinating to me, and that this is the Elden Ring is the most fantasy game they've ever made. Like, I would say it has the most fantasy in it, the most dragons, the most knights on arm, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has the most definitively varied set of straight up Elder God aliens in it as well. Like, you look at the Elden Beast and you look at Estelle, and you're like, those are completely different fucking life forms. There is
Yeah.
absolutely no cross in between those at all.
Now, there was a joke that was made at some point during the exhaustion when Reggie said something to the effect of, can't wait for the final boss, ulcerated Elden Tree Spirit.
Um,
And I was like,
I
don't
so
you dare. And then we got there.
they do in fact share their skeleton, I believe.
It's not
Like,
that far off. Did you walk
yeah,
backwards to the final area where you when when the whole capital is desertified, and
yeah.
did you walk back to the final ulcerated spirit?
I did not.
Okay.
Or did I? I don't remember.
So it's the only one that is wandering the field like an outside creature. And you walk
Okay.
back to the staircase and you see it, and that entire area that connects the back door of Lane Dell to the area to where the mountaintop goes, you have to walk backwards from it. When you go down the stairs, you fight that Erdtree, ulcerated, that Erdtree. You fight the ulcerated spirit, and you run over to a talisman, and then the ground shakes, and a fucking second one pops out, and you fight a second one back to back, and
Did
then
I do that? I
as
can't
you
remember.
wander out of the area, the ground shakes, and a third one pops out, and I go, fuck you, FromSoft. You know exactly what you're doing. This joke of a fucking enemy that's been like ridiculously overplayed, they now dropped 3 in the same area as a punchline on you. There's no way it wasn't intentional. To get the it's basically the fat +2.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
It makes sense that the ulcerated tree spirit is now like popping off everywhere. They're weird parasites, and they're diseased, and you're burning their house.
Sure.
Right? You're burning their fucking house down.
Sure. I
But
wonder if it's like, if your lore explanation on that is like, is this a part of the crucible beforehand, or is it like, and it's, you know, that's like reacting in a just a bestial way, or is it
it's
herd related?
tough.
Everything's tough. But that final fight it's a very like spectacle driven one, but it's like
Yes.
not as challenging. Certainly the Radagon fight is much more like testing your reaction and your ability to recognize the attack
Yeah, no,
patterns and
Rad's a
such.
fucking fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a throwdown against your typical antagonist. The Beast requires like platforming at one point with his fucking ring bullshit.
Yeah. Sprint out. I will say that, like, okay, dragons overstayed their welcome, as we addressed in the past before. The fucking dragon god, Dragon Lord Placidusax in Farum Azula is the best dragon fight FromSoft has ever done.
Oh yeah.
That thing's unbelievable. Just straight up taking your Ghidorah cues, you know.
Oh yeah.
Shin Godzilla cues, and the attack that I missed, the nuke that fucking goes off. I stopped it right as it was. I beat him right as he was apparently like getting primed to do it. But I saw a video later of what we missed, and it's unbelievable. And I'm like, that is so refreshing for an enemy type that I was kind of tired of, you know? So I'm really happy they had that in there.
It's this kind of fascinating thing where I've been talking to friends, and one of the bigger complaints about the game in general is enemy reuse. Right? We talked about this a little bit when you were going through Haligtree.
Sorry, when you say platformer, you have to jump the rings of the...
You're supposed to jump the rings as they come in at you.
I sprinted out of the aggro zone every time and rolled and dashed through the
So
wall.
The issue with that is that sometimes you react too slow, and then you have to play your jumping game. But yeah, no, there's a hell of a lot of monster reuse. Like, you go to Haligtree, and you're mainly dealing with the same types of enemies, and, you know, ulcerated tree spirits, Erd tree avatars, bears, revenants. Like, there's a couple that are reused too much. In particular, I was looking it up, and the demigods are like basically the only non-reused enemies in the entire game, and even then Godric gets a reuse.
He gets a reuse.
But simultaneously, and this also goes into the game's balance, like, there's a lot there. That's a big goddamn fucking game.
Godfrey.
And it feels like areas were designed on the assumption that you were not going to 100% scrape every area as you went.
Perhaps that's the thought. Perhaps you would encounter a couple of the burial watchdogs. Perhaps, you know what I mean? You would see a crucible or two, which admittedly, when I got to the end and I was like, hold on, I only have one aspect of the crucible. And I fought at least 2 or 3 of these guys, and I had to go back, and I found, I went back, and then, like, you know, with the tips, I was able to go back and get the rest of the ones I was missing, which were not immediately obvious. One of which is...
Yeah, a lot of them are quite hidden.
Fucking off that ledge in Stormvale, way in the fuck nowhere. with a death drop that's not a death drop, and then obviously Tanith's Night, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that final sequence of like Gideon into Hoara, into Radagon, into Elden Beast is a really tight one. Those are some
It's
fun fights, man.
it's not just cool like in terms of the you're escalating like a full game's worth of antagonists in like an hour.
Hmm.
Right? It's not just cool for that, but also considering the ending is purely ideological based,
Mm-hmm.
like every person you're running into has a completely different ideology. One is, nah, keep it going forever. The other is, I'm going to go back to being king. The other is, we're just going to keep shit like this and we're going to make it perfect. And oops, I might have fucked it up. Oops. And then the last one is, I'm a fucking space monster. Do what I say, you fucking freaks.
Yeah. Also, it grabs the corpse and turns it into the sword. You know. And you would think that's the closest direct connection to the greater will, I suppose. I
I
gotta.
felt I felt kind of silly when I got to Rad, and I realized that I had not noticed that his rune is all over the game, and even on the title screen is that his rune is the crisscross.
Oh
I
yeah,
had
yeah,
not
yeah.
I had not interpreted that as part of the rune at all.
Oh no, so I remember the exact point where we caught that was in the Church of Marika that is just in northern Liurnia, and you walk in and you see the Radagon statue with the crosses, and I remember we were like, oh shit, like down to that behind him. We saw one in Renala's room. We saw one in the church as well, and then yes, that's part of the rune that you see when it all comes together. Yeah, it's all related, and Marika's with the T, But
Did you see? It's easy to miss. In Malekith's arena, there is a unique depiction of the Elden Ring that doesn't exist anywhere else in the game.
no,
So it's the Elden Ring that you know, except there are just branches or tentacles that are covering the entire thing. It is like massively enlarged
interesting.
compared
Okay,
to the normal one.
that is so because you know now that like philosophically you can take all the runes and put them back together along with your own interpretation of events to get your different endings and mend it that way. Seeing different types of versions of the Elden Ring sigil like it makes sense with what the story sets up. Fucking kudos and well done, well played. When I was talking about my Garank theory, and I was like 1 inch to the left of bullseye on that.
Yeah.
Um, that was still I was in the dark until we walked in the room.
Hey, Wooly, I found a screenshot of it, and I'm sending it to you now.
Okay.
So it's the existing Elden Ring with the rune art.
Yeah. With
It
the
is just
okay.
drowning in extra tentacles.
Okay. Interesting.
And I remember seeing that, like, what the fuck is that? The fuck does that mean?
Yeah. I that Malekith fight is the most anime shit ever.
Oh, he's great.
It's super super good. It's a fantastic payoff. Um
And he recognizes if you've done his whole quest.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which, what a cool detail.
Um the bit
I
about
will I will say one thing about the Malekith fight that I absolutely despise, which is the instant that I beat it and you go back to the capital and the capital is gone. I'm like, oh great, now I get to rebeat the whole game and stop before Malekith in case there's a goddamn DLC entrance in this ash pile that I can't get to anymore.
Mm, um yeah, I'm gonna start my new save, but I think I'm gonna keep my cloud one at the decision point just in case, because that's what I did is I to go back and see the different endings.
Yeah.
Um, fucking awesome that the scars of the third finger stay on you after the
Yeah,
fact.
forever.
That shit's great. I like that. Your decision is made, and that ending is the most interesting one.
Oh yeah.
It's easily the one that's like, because like all the others are kind of throne of want. Let's be real,
All
right?
the others are listen. I have the control, and I would like to make things this way or that way or this way or that way, or I'll let the space witch handle it.
Sure, yeah. And she wants to fucking peace out and have you be like, "Where is God?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm not talking
Oh,
to you."
you went and got the fucking retranslation of that ending.
I mean, no, but the conversation we had with her in her tower, where she says what she wants to do, like,
Yeah.
I didn't like I caught after the fact that there was translation issues or whatever, but in the way she was wording it, like we were able to intuit that she just wants a distant world that is like ours, where if God exists, God's not going to tell you he
Yeah, she
exists.
wants to remove all
You
these
know.
troubles
Mm-hmm.
from the land and just fuck off.
Because ultimately the fact that, and this is what, again, it's not confirmed and I was hoping it would be, but it's close enough to see that like every one of these gods and demigods has been given a job to do, and they kind of want their freedom, and they don't
Yeah.
want to do what they've been prescribed, but they're stuck because that's the nature of being highborn, right? Almost like being born to like a king or a lord in old times,
Yeah.
where you don't get to actually marry for love. You don't get to, be anything but a political convenience piece.
You got to
So
make a bunch of super babies because the space monster tells you.
So the idea of like rebelling against the greater will, rebelling against the greater order of the Erd Tree and the Golden Order of the Erd Tree and everything that the fingers were ascribing to you, is like you see that with Rani, and then it's just echoed in the parents as well, and it sucks because like in all the cases of the like vassal beasts, right? They're all pretty badass, like loyal, cool guys, cool beast wolfers, men. But
Yeah.
but you feel so bad because it's like, okay, so Blythe comes to his ending, which is like he fought back against it, and to the end he died, like basically saying, I'm never gonna let the anything happen to her, right?
Yeah.
Sirash, I mean, took a step forward towards you, and Hoara Mania did what it did, and that was that. But even when we saw
Malekith gets it bad.
Malekith, you feel so bad for, because Malekith like did nothing wrong. Essentially, was used as a puppet, given the rune of death because that's what Marika was up to at the time, and then knowing that that he was the vassal spirit given to her that like would have to essentially, I guess, become a mindless tool of the greater will if the rebellion were to go through. She has to completely give up on him and betray him and fuck him over by stealing it from him afterwards. And it looks, and like the fact that he seals away the rest of the rune is part of the guilt plan that she wanted. It wasn't like she took it or did something that caused the sealing to happen. It was his response to losing a piece of it that made him so sad that he said it's never going to happen again. And that's exactly what she needed for the
Now,
rest of that to start.
to be fair to I'm down with the Ronnie plan of, moving all this shit away.
Mm-hmm.
However, part of that plan unintentionally created like the worst form of undeath I've ever seen in anything.
Oh, Godwin,
Yeah,
Prince of Death tree thing.
like
Every waking moment is
just
agony.
an undying fucking corpse that is spreading more versions of itself like a goddamn parasite.
Like Fia is a nice lady, except for when she's a crazy murderer. But she's a nice lady. But the fact that she's kind of ignoring the state of the fucking prince she's sitting in front of, as well as the other undeads that were, like I said, over at Agheel, that are like, please cook us, dragon. Please kill us. We don't want to be like this. And then every other version, and this is one of my favorite parts of the story actually, is when I came across the you know, the area where you're up in the snowfield and the big skull laser skeletons are shooting at you,
Yeah.
and you gotta
Right.
go find the Tibia Mariner.
Right.
So when you go there and you fight him and you get the weapon that is like the signpost, right, for leading the dead off, and then there's a deathrite bird over there as well, and you're like, there's all these other methods of death that existed that have no job anymore, right?
Yeah, because the Erd tree sucks up your soul like a fucking siphon.
So the boatman is Karen is lost, just like swimming on land, like I don't know what to do, you know. And the deathrite birds that use ghost flame to cook the corpses, they have nothing to cook anymore because everyone's shoving them the bodies in the trees now. So
It's
they're out of a job.
it's this very interesting situation where in Dark Souls and in Sekiro and in Bloodborne, what you have is people who committed some kind of horrific act that inverts the natural order. Either the sin of the first flame or cindering, right, is causing undead, or everything to do with the old ones in Bloodborne, or, you know, worshiping the centipede shit in Sekiro. But in Elden Ring, you have something that's like much worse, where the Elden Beast destroyed the existing natural order and replaced itself with its own, which then also broke.
Yes.
So you have like
Yes.
two natural orders stacked on top of each other, which are both ruined.
And all this because the code of the universe and the rules, which are not unlike the backyard.
Yes, yes. Yes, the backyard.
The Elden Ring has the rules of the universe, and it's right there. And if you want to grab it and take one out and fuck with reality, you can. That's the biggest problem, really, is that, you know, the fucking the literally the JavaScript twigs that the world is running on can absolutely be sourced and fucked with if you
It's
just go
like
grab it.
tearing it's like tearing the gravity page out of your physics textbook and everybody starts to float.
Exactly, exactly.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is why though, as much as so Rani's choice is an awesome one and represents a fucking solid ass future, right? But Gold Mask is the shit, dude. Cuz Gold Mask says nothing. All he does is spend his time staring at the equation, tracing the finger, right? Doing the gestures as the two fingers would communicate, trying to piece it together. And he's like, hold on a minute. This shit's fucked up. They're flawed. The gods are flawed. They're just as dumb as us. They're lying. The idea of this golden order is one that it's idyllic, but they're not following that. It's not adding up, right? Carry the two, put it all together. Turns out we should be allowed to read the Bible for ourselves. That's how we'll figure out what's going on. You can't just trust some random priest to tell you what's in there. Learn to read it yourself. I'ma do it, and then I'ma fix that thing, and we'll do one better than the shitty gods that failed at what they were trying to do. And Corrin shits his pants at that and goes, meh. And I have to assume that Corrin choked him out mid calculation out of just absolute like crestfallen, you know, like weakness, and tried to hide his body on the cliffside over, and the corpse would not stop T-posing. So he's like trying to shove the arms down, but like it won't happen. Gold Mask dies in the T-pose, you know.
I
Now
think that
Corrin got a fucked up intro to begin with too, because they tried to burn him and all that shit, and he had his faith was pure, and you know all that yada yada. But at the end of the day, like when the truth comes out and you are just like, nope, faith to the end, no matter what. In this narrative, when the gods are flawed, fuck off, buddy. That sucks.
I think Corhin might be like the worst of the haircut gang yet. Like
Hmm.
he's so wretchedly pathetic.
Hmm. I don't think
Like, I
so.
cannot stand him.
Because original haircut was like just a fraud, where he was
Yeah.
being he was doing the thing that you hate, which is like you are the hypocrite beyond hypocrites, trying to pretend you're holier than thou. Corrin was legit, but he was so legit that when he was confronted with the breaking of the enclosure of his understanding, he shattered and couldn't handle it, right?
You know
And
what?
he survived, again, he survived persecution up until that point because he was so steadfast.
Uh,
Some lore, some stories would be like that devout warrior is to be rewarded for their unshakable faith. But in this case, sorry, the gods are frauds. This is not the world where that's going to pay off.
I think I can understand. I think I know what the tipping point between our views on Corhin is, and it's very simple. I played a faith character, and as a faith character, turning in to get new spells and have him basically shit himself that anything outside divine order fundamentalism
How dare
even
you?
works.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's not part of the divine order. I guess I could teach you.
And that's why I
Fuck off.
took all my spell books to Turtle Pope. Because Turtle
Hell
Pope
yeah, you
was just
did.
like, let's learn together.
Turtle Pope's so fucking cool. I love him.
I'm so glad nothing happens to him.
Yeah, he's chilling.
Like, when you come back and you see EG burning with the black flame, and you're like, God damn, that's a way to die, you know? And there, you see the corpses of the assassins around him as well. And it's like, okay, but he got a couple, though.
He got a couple without standing up.
Yeah. He's a step over from where he was. Now the thing is though, I guess, is like you look at what, like, you know, Destined Death is, and you look at what the Black Flame and the Ghost Flame, all these things, and it's like, well, he's dying a true death and not getting like an Erd Tree death. So
Right.
I guess there's that, you know. But yeah, like it feels like such a long time ago in the LP, but like those are some nice people you roll with, and it ends up bad for just about all of them. Turtle Pope is it makes it
He's
out
fine.
unscathed. Yeah.
The Elden Ring quest line is really taking the From Software quest narrative design to its upper limit, which is everyone would probably be better off having never met you.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of Fox Die vibes a little bit.
Yeah.
It is. And of course, the idea too is like, well, depending on your choices, you know, the things are always going to go bad for some of them. But like, even if you lean into like, let's say like Vare and Moog and all that shit, it's like, or the Three Fingers. It's like the moment you go, let's say you take Shabriri's advice, and you go,
Right.
you meet the Three Fingers, and then it grips you, and you're like, all right, he should be happy. Let's see Chaos take the world. And you go back to him, and he's out. He's just gone, and like you get the rags of Jura, you know, because like it seems like the power of frenzy is what kept his spirit alive in the world to begin with, and now that's gone with you, you know. So even following through on what these people want sometimes is like leading to tragic ends, which of course goes back to the soul bit about, you know, people satisfying their wants and thus hollowing out, right? Jar Alexander, you didn't have to swing, right? But you knew he wanted to. He's been telling you the whole time that like he wants the greatest warriors inside of him. So it went the way it went, but he could have easily have been just a G all the way through to the credits, you know? Hopefully the Jar Baron gets a little more love in the DLC.
People are pointing out that Shabriri will help you fight Godfrey if you're madnessing it up.
What? That's wild. Okay. Damn. You can summon him back anyway. Interesting.
That's great, because that's the moment where he's like, no, we got to do this. We got to do this madness thing. We got to burn it down.
Where did you end with Patches?
the where I ended with Patches is me with a save file in which they kept patching in more patches. When I was playing the game, he never even went to the shaded castle. You finished the Volcano Manor quests and talked to him, and then he just disappeared from the world. That's
Okay.
where I ended up with Patches.
So yeah, you go back. He's in Shaded Castle. Gives you the item, right? Doesn't do anything. Doesn't convince Tanith to turn away from eating Rykard, and then Patches dies, right? And then I'm looking at it, and I didn't see it, and Reggie's looking at it. He didn't see it, and motherfuckers are like, he's still breathing. He goes, ugh, and slumps over, and he's still breathing. And then you reload your save, and he's gone. You walk back to the fucking first cave you ever meet him in, and you open up the treasure chest, and he attacks you again. And the whole sequence starts, but then he goes, wait, hold on a minute. What? Is that you? You know, and then he stops.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, I guess in the end, all that adventuring was, you know, it got a bit highfalutin for me, so I'm just coming back to my roots kind of thing. And he just sets up his shop back in the cave, and, like, Patches has a perfect loop.
Okay.
It's great. It's great. Absolute perfect for someone like that. Anyways, yeah, very cool. I will say as well that something else that I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit for not at all thinking of the connection, but this was again pointed out in a recent Vati, was the very cromulent theory that the falling star beast, right, falls and then grows into the full-grown falling star beast.
Oh, that's been, like, I'm not gonna say confirmed, but like they literally have named life cycles in game.
We completely missed that in you know, trying to draw connections. And then yeah, evolution of falling star full grown is the rock spitter, you know, where the skull comes out and it's got the same mandibles, and it's like, oh yeah, totally. And
then there's the immobile one.
That's what I mean, right? Yeah, the rock spitter, right?
Yeah.
And then like that's just kind of in its cocoon form, its metapod form, you know. And then you go down to fucking Astel, and hey, look, it's a Butterfree. You know.
Well, not quite.
It's a Butterfree.
What's interesting is that one of the things Azuli pointed out is that the insects that come out of the rot that appear to be like literally born from the rot, and the rot predating the events of literally everything in the entire game, look like termites. Which
the pests.
The ones that shoot that fucking like Macross thing, they look like termites. And personally, so do kind of Estelle.
Yeah,
like
they're
also
insect-like.
kind of look like big evil termites.
They're insect-like, absolutely. They definitely are. Fuck, what was it? Oh, and speaking of the rot as well, the bit about the butterflies is pretty solid. It's like you got a butterfly that's a rot butterfly. It's the Aeonian. That's obviously
right.
Millennia. You've got the Michaela butterfly, which is nascent and like always childlike, always, you know, in that same curse. And then the smoldering butterfly, which is just on fire, hanging out by the flames whenever you find them. And it's like, okay, who catches on fire? The other one with the M name, who says that her mother is stuck in the Erd tree. Okay, yeah. So Melina, it's not just a matter of playing word games again with Melania and Melina. It's also...
No, she is likely a third or
she's
fourth
one
child.
of them. Yep. But just wants to follow through and be your stand-in maiden as her. As
she
her
doesn't
desire.
even refer to herself as a finger maiden.
No, she says I'm not.
Have you? Yeah, it's like she's a different thing. And the other thing is that her eye tattoo has 3 fingers on it. Whatever the fuck that means.
Oh, Hmm. She hates it when you follow that route,
Oh,
though.
he
So
really doesn't like it at all.
you kicked the horse, and now you're gonna fucking get it. Yeah. Anyways, fantastic, awesome, and definitely gonna, as I said in in the video, gonna need a breather before we jump back into Souls LP. Not jumping into DS2 right away. Gonna have to
Yeah,
come back
I
around to it.
finally started my second run of Elden Ring for realsies like last night, and that was after like 4 months, 5 months away from the game. Like it needs some serious fucking breathing room.
Yeah, I mean, it was an extremely enjoyable experience, but I need a very fresh take, and I feel as if, especially going backwards at this point, is gonna feel extra rough. So, taking that breathing room, but
It's. I'll tell you one thing about it though is that depending on what kind of second run you want to make, boy, you can fly through that fucking game, man.
mm,
You go, hey, I want this weapon and I want this weapon art, and you fucking grab whatever normal ass thing you want to use, and you just ride your ass over to the Bloodhound step and get it, and then just drive that horse up through whatever boss you need to go and get whatever item you need.
I think whenever I do it, I think I'll do like something probably arcane-y, just to see how weird that gets, and probably a lot more multiplayer focused.
So I'm in a weird state in that I went through with a strength faith build the first time.
Hmm.
And I'm actually going to go through with a faith build again, but probably more towards like quality or dex. And the reason why I'm doing that again instead of going for something more different is that literally every patch that came out after I beat the game took every spell that I wanted to like but was trash and fixed them.
Mm.
So there's a lot of spells in Faith in which you get into an animation lock and do a huge fucking spell, and any arrow would just plink you out of that no problem, and they all got armor.
Okay.
Like they all became faster. They all got more damage.
Interesting. Um, Balances will surely get addressed again when DLC drops, so we'll
I don't
see.
I think anything that's in the main game right now is going to get changed from now on. I think it's mainly going to be adding new stuff that mixes it up, like some talisman that inverts your type damage type, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, fucking cool shit. Happy to finally get there, and not dissatisfied with what we got when we finally did get there. I'm also like, I'd be really curious to see, not that it would, I feel like we're ever going to see it, but like just what Grimm's notes were, you know? I would love to see his like manuscript almost for just like the the world building process. I wouldn't want a novelization. I would just be curious about like, his overall bird's eye view of the setting and like how they went about like being like, okay, like we need a cool guy here. He's gonna fight you. He's gonna have two phases. What are we doing? And then it's like, oh yeah, or like the idea of like because I know that there's some stuff, because we're going to talk about one of the things that came up today was like when you grab the 1.0 version of the game, for example, you can see different moves, different tech. Millennia used to have extra moves and used to be way more aggressive on the disc version of the game.
Really?
Yeah, and so someone was able to basically go in and like get her behavior to be what it used to be. So the big thing about that, this is one of the stories, but Waterfowl Dance was originally called Millennia's Blade, and
Right.
there was a second attack called Waterfowl Dance, which was a grounded 4-hit version, not 4-hit, 4-sphere Judgment Cut version of the aerial one, but it was grounded and just moved aggressively towards you. So she had 2 of them, and they had no life threshold, so she would just do them whenever she wanted frequently.
That's too much.
Insane. Absolute madness. And the damage was the same, like, you get caught in it, you're dead type thing. She also had her behavior, she did the run up and kick a lot less. And she could block.
With what?
Her sword.
Okay.
She would put the sword out like Sekiro style and block your attacks after she was vulnerable sometimes, and that was it. It was ridiculous. It was the most batshit like, they wanted her to be stupid, and what we got, stupid as it was toned down.
That's just silly. I'm now going to be looking at this. Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's Waterfall Dance. Holy shit, on the floor.
She could block, and she could, and it was like, when you fight a boss with a big shield, it tells you, hey, sometimes they're gonna block your attacks, whatever. But someone like that, you're expecting, like, no, you swing on her, counter hit, you get her to stagger, you do what you can. Nuh-uh. Sometimes, too bad. And after like, it was a part of her behavior. Occasionally, there's those little clash moments, but this is, yeah, she was wild. She was beyond wild. So, you can go back and see that
Wow,
style
just
behavior.
still block a hit and then dash away.
Yep. Fuck you.
Fuck
No hit.
that.
No hit. Anyways, Elden Ring.
That doesn't even,
pretty good.
like, the thematic consistency of her being the toughest shit in the world, but she tanks hits like a fucking, like, level 1 hollow, and that every normal hit just puts her in the right? Like, that was appropriate because she's the best swordswoman in the world, but she's just riddled with super space cancer.
Yeah, that shows you where their heads were at with the fucking balance, and it's like, if it's optional, then, like, too bad, fuck you.
Well, we put all these tools in the game, and you don't have to do it. Therefore,
throw another 1,000 hours on my playthrough. Good times. All right.
yeah, that game was a great goddamn experience. I'm so happy that it ended up being as good as it was after stuff like Cyberpunk and shit like that. Like, that would have been just a fucking knife to the gut.
It would have deflated the hype of what has been a banger ass, not franchise, series of games, I'll call it.
Let's say anthology.
Sure. Because they're all good. They're all good so far. Like, even Dark Souls 2, which is the least of them because of it doesn't live up to their standard, is still a very cool, fun video game.
I still remember the year it came out. We got to the end of the year, and I'm like, I've never been more disappointed in a game. Everything about it is worse than Dark Souls 1. I'm just so miserable about how it's not nearly as good. I can't stop playing it. I've beat it multiple times. It's the game of the year.
And I don't strictly include Sekiro in that list. To me,
You should. It's
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. It's hybrid, but it is structurally, I guess, the corpse running aspect and the boss fight. Yeah, it's
So,
structurally there. It's pretty, but
recently
like
watched
the character selection restriction though is so aggressive, by comparison.
So I went and I watched a video by Noah Gervais, who does like long form video essays, and he did one on the FromSoft catalog. including one. He did one on Dark Souls, and he did one on the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
which is Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of correctly figured out that like Sekiro is taking that kind of formula and boiling it fucking super down. You have a named character, you have one weapon, and it is indeed going to focus narratively on no, you are going to fight your fucking ass off. And there is no difficulty selection in terms of maybe if I go somewhere else and get stronger, maybe if I go somewhere else and try a different technique. It's no, you're gonna fucking do it or you're gonna fucking cry and die. And
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring is the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring is the 100% polar
Find
opposite.
your own way.
So like Dark Souls would be the center of this, and Sekiro and Ring would be on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like Elden Ring is kind of like hilariously easy in hindsight, because anytime I ran into anything that was really genuinely too tough, I just turned my character 70 degrees and just went into another random direction
way.
until I found something that I could deal with.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna take note of the character rigidity more than like perhaps others might, because of how much I love custom characters and how much I love the ability to like pick my own build and such. So, you know, not to say that like, yeah, of course, like every game that is like this needs to be that, but it is part of what I kind of felt, I suppose, hamstringed by. But if this wasn't based on my expectations of other things they had made prior, I wouldn't have those expectations. So, you know, anyway.
Well, it made a lot more sense back when it was literally called Tenchu.
Tenchu, yeah.
But even then, Tenchu was a fucking stealth game. It was not a fight your goddamn ass off against some like fucking Sekiro might as well be FromSoft makes Ninja Gaiden.
Sure. And Neo is the actual Samurai Souls experience when it comes to like, you have a named character that is doing plotline things, but boy can your
boy, can you pick up a lot of useless garbage off the floor?
And your
boy,
sure, but your character can be very, very different accordingly. In Neo 1, that is to say. Neo 2 is a whole other bag.